1999. A massive stadium in Germany. Nearly 50,000 fans packed the venue to witness Whitney Houston perform during one of the most important tours of her life. As she walked onto the stage in a flowing white gown, the crowd exploded in cheers. But what happened that night would become one of the most unforgettable moments of her entire career. Right before she began singing one of her signature songs, a man in the front row stood up and mocked her voice, shouting loudly enough for thousands around him to hear. The band froze. Fans gasped. Security immediately moved toward him. But Whitney, she stopped everything. Instead of responding with anger or humiliation, Whitney Houston stepped toward the man, looked him straight in the eyes, and gave an answer so unexpectedly kind, so deeply human, that the entire stadium, almost 50,000 people, was moved to tears. What exactly did that man shout? What did Whitney say back? And why did her response touch every single person in that arena? Keep watching. Because this moment reveals a side of Whitney Houston the world rarely saw. A woman whose kindness was more powerful than any insult thrown at her. June 1999. Whitney Houston was in the middle of a demanding tour. Long flights, constant performances, and emotionally draining press attention. Yet that night in Germany, she looked radiant under the stage lights. The stadium pulsed with excitement. Signs, posters, flowers. Fans held them high, shouting, "We love you, Whitney! Queen Whitney! Sing for us!" Whitney smiled, soaking it in. Despite the pressure she carried, there was something peaceful about her presence that night. A softness in her eyes. A warmth in her movements. After finishing a powerful up-tempo number, she stepped toward the microphone and prepared to introduce "I Will Always Love You." "This song," she said gently, "is special to me. I want to give it to you tonight, from my heart." The crowd roared with anticipation, but before the band could play a single note, a voice cut through the silence. A male voice, loud, sharp, cruel. "Let's see if you can still hit the notes, Whitney." The area around him gasped. Fans glared at him in disbelief. Some shouted back, "Have some respect! Get out! What's wrong with you?" Whitney heard it. She stood still for a moment, not frozen, but quietly collecting herself. The band members exchanged nervous looks. Security moved toward the man, ready to remove him immediately. Whitney lifted a hand, a silent command. The security team stopped in their tracks. "No," she said softly into the microphone. "Let him stay." The crowd fell absolutely silent. Whitney walked slowly toward the edge of the stage, her eyes fixed on the man who had insulted her. He seemed suddenly smaller, unsure, surprised that she had even acknowledged him. Whitney leaned forward, lowered her mic, and said something the cameras barely caught. "Sweetheart, is it really your intention to hurt me tonight?" He didn't answer. Whitney gave a small, sad smile, not pitying, but deeply human. "You don't have to tear someone down to feel seen," she said. "I see you." The audience murmured. The energy shifted. Whitney had disarmed the entire situation not with anger, but with compassion. And that compassion was about to transform the entire stadium. The stadium remained unnervingly silent. Whitney stood just feet away from the man, the spotlight illuminating both of them. Her expression wasn't angry, it was calm, almost tender. The kind of expression only someone who has lived through deep pain can wear. She lifted her microphone again and spoke to the entire arena. "You know," she began softly, "people carry things we don't see: fear, hurt, loneliness." Her voice echoed across the stadium. "And sometimes, people try to hurt others because of their own pain." The crowd listened, still emotional, waiting. Whitney turned back to the man. "I don't know what you're going through, baby," she said gently, "but I hope you find peace. Truly." Stunned, unable to respond, Whitney continued, "If you came here to test me, I'm not angry, because love answers hurt better than anything else. The crowd erupted into soft applause. Not loud or aggressive, but deeply emotional. Some people were already wiping tears. Whitney held up her hand, signaling them to pause. I'm going to sing this next song, she said, for all of you, including him. The band began playing the opening notes of I Will Always Love You. Whitney closed her eyes and took a breath. The first note came out not as a powerhouse belt, but as a tender, fragile whisper, filled with vulnerability and truth. The stadium hung on every word. People held each other. Some cried openly. Even security guards stood frozen, touched by the moment. About halfway through the song, cameras captured something unexpected. The man who had mocked her was now crying. His shoulders shook. His head hung low. Something inside him had broken open, and Whitney saw it. She didn't point it out, she didn't call attention to it. She simply kept singing. Stronger, fuller, pouring every ounce of love she had into the song. By the time she reached the iconic final note, the stadium was a sea of tears. Whitney whispered, "Love wins, y'all, every time." As the final notes faded into the night, Whitney stood quietly, taking in the atmosphere. The air felt charged, sacred, as if the entire stadium had witnessed something larger than a concert. Whitney stepped back to the microphone. "You see," she said softly, "we don't know each other's battles. We don't know what someone is facing. A harsh word, a cruel moment, it can break somebody. But kindness can lift an entire room." She glanced again at the man. "And sometimes," she continued, "people need love the most when they show it the least." The crowd applauded again, this time louder, freer, infused with emotion. Whitney placed her hand over her heart. "I'm not perfect," she said. "I've had my hard days too, but this stage, this night, I feel your love, and I want to give it back." Then she said something that stunned everyone. "Sir, thank you." Gasps rippled through the stadium. Whitney explained, "You reminded me tonight that grace matters, that we don't let anger win. And I hope, sincerely, that whatever you're facing, tonight brought you a little healing too." Instead of humiliation, she offered redemption. Instead of revenge, she offered understanding. The stadium exploded in applause, 50,000 people rising to their feet as if a wave had surged through them. Whitney smiled softly, tears glistening in her eyes. The man lifted his head. His face was red, wet with tears. He put his hand to his chest and mouthed, "I'm sorry." Whitney nodded, accepting the apology without another word. It was a moment of pure humanity, the kind of moment no script, no camera, no PR strategy could ever manufacture. Just a superstar and a stranger, and a moment of forgiveness witnessed by tens of thousands of people. The band transitioned into the next song, but Whitney raised her hand. "No," she said gently. "Not yet." The stadium fell silent once more. "I want to say one more thing," she continued. "You all came here tonight for music, but what we shared was something deeper. We shared a reminder that love is stronger than hate, always." She looked out at the sea of faces. "Tonight you didn't just watch a performance. You were part of a moment of understanding." The crowd cheered again, many still fighting back tears. Whitney motioned to the man. "Baby, thank you for being honest. Even if it came out the wrong way, I hope you leave here lighter." The audience didn't boo him. They didn't shame him. Whitney's compassion had transformed the entire energy of the crowd. She signaled the band once more. "All right, y'all," she said with a warm smile. "Let's lift this place up." She began singing a soft, emotional reprise of I Will Always Love You, this time allowing the crowd to sing the chorus with her. Tens of thousands of voices joined together. "And I will always love you." Lights swayed. Couples hugged. Friends held hands. Even strangers leaned into one another, united in the glow of the moment. Whitney stepped back, let the audience sing for a few seconds, then took over with a flawless final note. Gentle, controlled, filled with gratitude. As the music faded, the stadium roared. Whitney placed her hand on her heart again, bowed her head and whispered, "Thank you." And instead of walking off stage, she looked toward the man once more. He mouthed, "Thank you." Whitney smiled softly, a smile that said more than any speech ever could. Her voice, her kindness, her grace. They had transformed a moment of disrespect into a moment of healing, and the world never forgot it. When the concert ended, and the stadium lights slowly rose, the crowd remained standing, many still wiping tears from their faces. Even as people began leaving the arena, the energy in the air felt charged, almost sacred, as if something extraordinary had happened that went far beyond music. Backstage, Whitney walked slowly to her dressing room, still emotional from what she had just experienced. Her team followed her in silence. No one quite knew what to say. They had seen Whitney face criticism before, harsh comments, invasive tabloids, cruel jokes, but they had never seen her respond with such tenderness and power. One of her backup singers finally whispered, "Whitney, that was incredible." Whitney sat down, removed her earrings, and let out a long, shaky breath. "I wasn't trying to be incredible," she said. "I was just trying to be human." She looked down at her hands, still trembling slightly. "People think I'm made of steel," she continued. "They forget I'm a woman, a person, someone who feels every word." Her vocal coach stepped beside her. "You turned a moment of humiliation into a moment of grace." Whitney smiled softly. "That man, he wasn't trying to hurt me, not really. He was hurting himself." There was a brief silence before Whitney added, almost to herself, "Kindness changes things. Anger never does." Meanwhile, in the stadium, the man who had mocked Whitney remained in his seat long after the crowd had begun to leave. A few fans approached him cautiously, expecting him to be defensive or embarrassed. But he wasn't. He sat there with his face in his hands, visibly shaken. "I didn't expect that," he whispered to a couple nearby. "I thought she'd scream at me, or security would throw me out. But she spoke to me like I mattered." A woman touched his shoulder and said, "She gave you grace. Don't waste it." He nodded, tears falling freely. The next morning, news outlets around Germany were buzzing. Audience videos from the moment had circulated overnight. Headlines spoke not about drama or scandal, but about Whitney's extraordinary kindness. Whitney Houston responds to insult with love, crowd stunned. A moment of pure grace in front of 50,000 fans. Mocked on stage, Whitney chooses compassion. Fans around the world praised her humility. Musicians admired her strength. Even critics softened their tone. But the reaction that mattered most was the one Whitney received privately. A handwritten note arrived at her hotel. No signature, just a simple message. "Thank you for seeing me when I didn't deserve to be seen. You changed something in me tonight." Whitney held the note for a long time, pressed it to her chest and whispered, "Love wins. Always." And in that moment, she knew that what happened on that stage wasn't just a concert. It was a reminder of her impact, her heart, and the extraordinary power she carried not only in her voice, but in her kindness.